Well, CJ, thank you so much for joining us, and also thank you for participating in the first episode that we're rolling out. So maybe let's start with a quick intro to Limitless. If you could just shortly go over what you're building.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for having me. Limitless is a prediction market platform that enables you to create your own prediction markets and make money from them if they become popular.
Awesome. And can you go over which problems are we trying to solve? What are the pain points that you're currently seeing with users?
Yeah, well, prediction markets today are basically like centralized exchanges. So while some of them might be built on chain, they're still constrained completely by the will of institutional market makers and also like internal kind of top-down market creation by centralized companies. And so what we want to do is kind of drive forwards a Uniswap moment for prediction markets where we have millions of user-generated markets, trillions of dollars in volume, and subsequently become the world's most important, most accurate source of real-time information.
But like, I wonder, like, why do you think that happened? Like, why is like the creation of markets like centralized by big players? Like, why did that happen?
Yeah, I think there has always been an assumption, first of all, from academics, and then just as a result of mechanism design that liquidity providers in prediction markets will lose money. Actually, that was like first of all intentional. Henson, who proposed the logarithmic market scoring rule in 2002, really strongly believes that prediction markets should be subsidized in order to create incentives for information to be reported to the market. And if nobody wants to pay for it, which actually we saw happen quite a lot over the last 2 decades, then it's as the economic free rider problem that we see elsewhere in society. But we actually believe that's a lazy and dangerous assumption because, I mean, if you take a lot of kind of public prediction markets, like even the big ones, right, like will Biden drop out of the race, who really wants to pay for that? We kind of end up with this Spider-Man meme, right, where everybody is pointing at each other and trying to figure out like who should pay for it. And then if you take, for example, the like constant product market maker, this is like what Uniswap adopted, this very simple x times y equals k equation that makes for kind of continuous liquidity and price discovery for long tail assets. The problem is that in a prediction market context, when there is like an information shock or a market is resolved unexpectedly, the liquidity provider can essentially counter a worst case loss, which is like up to 100% of their liquidity contribution. And so it's really, really hard, even with quite a high degree of fees, to actually attract liquidity providers to prediction market AMMs in their current form. And that means that the incumbents drifted more toward the traditional financial model of using order books. And the thing is that order books rely on market makers, and market makers are quite selective about which particular markets they want to create. And so we don't have any kind of organic, discovery or growing up mechanism for new markets. And that leaves a lot of markets. Our thesis, millions, potentially even billions of markets that are just undiscovered as a result. Just like we saw, back before like summer 2020, like if you wanted to launch a token, for example, you would spend months of business development on trying to convince a centralized exchange to list your token, and then secondarily trying to convince market makers to make your token markets, right? And the same today. I mean, you may reach out to Polymarket and convince them to create your market on their platform, but then the kind of secondary consequences of that is also having to convince market makers to come and make those markets, which is really challenging. And so we kind of have this funnel of really like highly selective and really tightly curated like markets that only kind of cover the tip of the iceberg in terms of information that people want to discover and what they care about.
So all of us are super bullish on Farcaster, but we want to know, why did you decide to build Limitless on top of Farcaster, and what do you think is so exciting about Farcaster as a platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I think a lot of us, we kind of we took the bet that the Farcaster team wanted to give us, which is make Farcaster a really great place to launch a product and to attract early users and to try and at least start to tackle the cold start like problem when you building like consumer app. And the thing I love really a lot about Farcaster is that there are so many like high quality, like other also just in general like high quality users and investors that are like really excited about trying out like new products. And they're happy to support and share those and give you feedback and jump even on a call on a moment's notice. And so it makes Farcaster a really great place to test new things. And yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, so you both meeting users where they are, which is Warpcast or one of the clients, and also those specific users are very kind of open to test out new things. So you're getting a lot of distribution, but also for good types of early users.
Yeah, and it's like it's exactly right. It's like they're high quality users that they're not just like okay, I'm like ready to try anything. No, it's not like that. It's like they're ready to try things that appeal to them, which thankfully like Limitless does appeal to like quite a lot of the Farcaster audience from what we experienced so far. And the good part about that is they don't just try your product, but they also share like really good feedback that helps you to improve it.
Yeah, I think there are so many kind of token launchpads in crypto, but you have very little like product launchpad in which you can, launch a product and get it tested, not just a token. So it's kind of a product launchpad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and in general, I really love just to add an extra point. I really love the channels feature. I think
for sure.
I think it congregates people in a really good way and quite a conversational way as well. Like it feels a lot more like conversational than just usually posting things or like making announcements in Discord, for example. So yeah.
I must say that I absolutely love it as well. I feel that also it's great to discover stuff that you're like interested in or like passionate about. So I don't know, like if you are interested in getting like in posting something in the UX channel and you want like people that are actually interested in UX to reply to you, like it's much more efficient to get those eyes if you're publishing your post on like a custom Farcaster rather than just trusting the Twitter algorithm to deliver it to the right people. So I think that's definitely super cool. So I wonder, CJ, like what do you see as potential growth drivers for Limitless? And also I wonder like what sort of challenges do you foresee to face in the short term?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I mean, one of the most powerful things about Limitless is that we enable the user-generated markets, right? So we imagine like millions of markets on the platform that are created by our users about particular things that they might be interested in or have a particular audience for. And this allows us to discover like much more kinds of markets and information. Right now we focus on like trying to activate Atomic Network within like one community and attracting the hard side to the platform, which we believe is traders. But in terms of like challenges, definitely I think that liquidity has always been like a challenge, like especially for long-term markets. And as I mentioned previously, right, the kind of current state of like prediction market AMMs, or like at least Polymarket spent a lot of time relying on AMMs before they moved into the order book model, but it's for sure that they lost a lot of money, or they spent a lot of money, let's say, acquiring users by relying on those, just because literally how they work in the context of prediction markets, right? Or I mean even just more standard like token AMMs as well. And so I think that like we plan to deliver like the concentrated liquidity model. It can give like our users and like liquidity providers and also market creators kind of control over their exposure to the direction of a market, instead of kind of being blindfolded and like, telling someone like, hey, you probably might lose the majority of your money and like not make almost all of it back at all in fees, but you can be a martyr and like subsidize this market just because it will like uncover some information. We can actually say, well, here's a seat at the table, like you can play the game as well, you can actually select the range of the market that you feel comfortable providing liquidity to. The more risk that you take, the more incentives there are. We can then actually make it even more capital efficient by taking the collateral, which is used to create the kind of like conditional token positions and like delegating them to like lending markets or like liquid staking, for example. And we can actually, for the first time, build an attractive proposition for people to come and provide liquidity to prediction market AMMs. And so I would say that that probably is like the biggest challenge that like in general prediction markets face, and is like the highest priority thing on our side that we're trying to solve.
So another question is, do you think meme coins provide a solution for the liquidity problem? So if you can provide liquidity with meme coins, will it solve something?
Well, I think that depends on like a few factors. I definitely don't think it kind of solves the problem, but it's certainly like a band-aid in some cases. But only if we keep like constant these assumptions that prediction markets should be subsidized. In that case, like we can, for example, reach out to meme coin communities and encourage them to subsidize markets basically by providing the liquidity in their liquid token in order to kind of say, look, well, users that participate in prediction markets and are right often in prediction markets are typically quite smart and high quality users. And you can like distribute your tokens to those if you're providing liquidity to those markets or you're subsidizing those markets. It's definitely a means to subsidize markets, like in that sense. And like in tokens, you often hear people say distribution is the product, right? So it kind of makes sense why a meme coin community would want to get like more of their tokens in the hands of kind of high quality users. But it's still, it keeps constant this assumption that prediction markets should be subsidized. And we actually believe that that's quite a lazy and dangerous assumption in the context of like the majority of public markets, because it's not like, it's not like a corporation is subsidizing, a hiring market and gaining some extreme benefit from that. Actually, these are like public markets, right? That, anybody can participate in, and the value of them is, much more, I would say, subjective than something that, provides a return on investment to like a private company, which I believe are more so the kind of use cases that academics explored a long time ago when it comes to prediction markets. But, moving forwards, I believe we just need better mechanisms for prediction markets. And that's why we focus a lot of our attention on like the concentrated liquidity model, for example.
Got it. Cool.
So CJ, I wonder like what the technical architecture of Limitless looks like.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, in terms of like the prediction market logic, we are like using an extension of like the Gnosis conditional tokens framework. It's like a very beautiful and advanced framework that was built like a few years ago by the Gnosis team. And essentially, like, how prediction markets work in general, it's kind of like binary options, right? So basically, like, let's say we have a market like, will Trump be the president of the United States? And it's like USDC is the collateral token. Well, we easily can deploy like an AMM alongside the condition itself or the market itself. And then like, for example, like providing liquidity to that AMM actually creates shares in the outcome of the event. So like you might say, for example, like yes or no shares. And then these can be traded for the collateral token. Additional collateral tokens also get logged in the conditional token contract that handles all of the prediction market logic. Essentially, like before the market resolution, like one yes and one no share kind of adds up to one collateral token, like one USDC, right, in this example case. But we also really love like ETH and DGen markets, for example. And obviously not all shares or collateral tokens are like created equally in that case, because one ETH and one USDC is kind of like different things. But nevertheless, it's just kind of a scaled version. And the point is, like, when the Oracle actually reports the result to the market, like, I don't know, let's say, for example, Donald Trump is elected, then the winning shares basically are redeemable for one collateral token, and the losing shares are redeemable like for 0. So before the market resolution, one yes and one no share is equal to one collateral token. But after the market resolution, one winning share is equal to one collateral token and one losing share is equal to 0. Now, of course, the Gnosis conditional token framework is like really advanced. You can also have things like scalar markets. You can build really like deep positions, which like aggregate like shares in different outcomes. But we keep it like pretty simple right now in terms of like the implementation, just so the UX is like easy to understand for our users. And yeah, like as I mentioned, like we're currently working on the concentrated liquidity AMM to make like providing liquidity much more efficient. And yeah, one bonus, I guess, which I also mentioned earlier, is that, you know, considering you lock the collateral in the contract that handles all of the prediction market logic in order to issue these shares, we also have interesting ideas about, for example, you know, like redelegating those to lending markets or to liquid staking to make the incentives more beefy, but, you know, ensure that they remain like sustainable for liquidity providers or even for traders in like specific long-term markets, right? Like one thing about long-term like time horizon prediction markets is that, you know, you might actually get a better return like elsewhere, and so there is a huge opportunity cost of making like long-term predictions. But by, you know, like kind of redelegating the collateral to something like a lending market, you actually can really boost the capital efficiency and make it more attractive for people to participate. But probably the first stop, it's more so about, you know, making stronger incentives and a stronger incentive proposition for liquidity providers themselves or the market initiators to provide liquidity in order to kind of grow up these like longer tail markets. And, you know, at some point, maybe they will go on and graduate to an order book model, right? As many tokens that have been launched on Uniswap over the years have been like listed on centralized exchanges as well. But Uniswap has still facilitated like trillions of dollars in volume, and lots of tokens today, even the most popular tokens, especially in DeFi, probably wouldn't have existed without those innovative rails, right? And that's kind of what we want to uncover, like millions of user-generated markets and trillions of dollars in volume to really take prediction markets to the next level.
So CJ, we're coming to an end. So do you have any alpha that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, definitely. Like we focus right now a lot on like building social features for the platform. So we may potentially like also like integrate the Farcaster social graph. But you know, things like comments, like more conversational around like specific predictions and markets, things like points and leaderboards, like other kind of like incentives, quests and stuff like that, referral mechanics. And yeah, as mentioned, like we'll be going public like very soon in terms of the permissionless market creation and our like new concentrated liquidity AMM. Right now though, you can create your own markets, but it's a private feature, so you have to DM me in order to, you know, be onboarded. But yeah, very soon we want to open the floodgates and really start to scale this thing. So looking forward to that.
I think it's really exciting. Like the fact that you can use Farcaster to enrich existing apps with social interactions. So either embedding them as a frame or having like a login for a Farcaster in your own web app, and then you can, you know, add stuff to the Farcaster social graph and add a lot of different things from Warpcast or from the different clients. You have so much social building blocks that you can combine with your product. I think it's a huge unlock that not a lot of builders have been utilizing to date. So I'm really excited like to see what you guys are going to build and how it will look like.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot. And we actually launched V3 of our Farcaster frames yesterday, so make sure to check it out if you didn't know. Like any market link from Limitless.exchange just renders like as a kind of mini prediction market on Warpcast, so you can buy and sell shares directly from the feed itself.
Really cool. So definitely going to check it out.
Awesome.
So CJ, thank you so much for joining us. So everyone just try out Limitless, participate in the markets, create new markets, and yeah, like it was a pleasure to host you here.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Peace out.
Thank you so much, CJ. Take care. Bye, man.